take a pick, I'm leaning towards Michigan in that game.
He's leaning towards Michigan. That's Joel Klatt from Fox Sports. He was on Breaking the Huddle, and he likes Michigan coming up in the game on Friday. Spoiler, I do too. Let's bring in our first guest here on the Maize and Blue Review. Actually, our only guest today, highlighted by former Michigan kicker Brandon Kornblue, who's here on TMBR. Brandon, how are you?
Doing great. Great. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us. I know you are originally from South Florida, so you know the Wolverines are all down there, concentrate. A lot of people headed down there, kind of your neck of the woods.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it was at the Ohio State game and then went to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship. And so I was really hoping that as we're winning that game, that we weren't headed to Dallas, because another 3 straight travel games. I was hoping I could stay in my backyard. So hour-and-a-half drive is much easier.
Yeah, not too bad. Seems like the weather's been, as it usually is, pretty nice down there for Michigan. And, we're certainly going to talk about kicking and Kornblue kicking and everything. But, just tell me that now that you've watched Michigan this year, you heard what Joel Klatt had to say. I'm picking Michigan in this game. You feel like they got a pretty good shot here against Georgia?
No doubt. It's, as you watch the team and you read and hear about everything that's gone on from, the springtime till now, it's nothing but positive, and the team, the chemistry, just everything that is happening within the program is positive, moving in a positive direction. And, I've always, the last, 2-3 years, as we hear more criticism on Harbaugh, I have always been supportive. And my response is always, well, who are you going to get that's better than Harbaugh? Like, what are you going to do? Who on earth are you going to put in that position that's going to do a better job and care more about the program than he does? And, it was just a matter of a couple plays here and there, a couple of games here and there that are the difference. I know here you're seeing it all come together. I remember, with me as a player, we had my freshman and sophomore years, we were four loss seasons. And then my third year, we go undefeated, win the national championship. And I always say that there was not much of a difference between those teams. It was just some of the chemistry, injuries, a couple plays here and there. And it's a whole different perception of what is happening. And so, I know there's a difference with this team, and there's some great leadership and things happening there. But in terms of the overall picture, I'm more than happy with the way things have been going, and obviously now more people are happy with how we're doing. It's really impossible to complain about what's going on with the program today.
Yeah, you got to be pretty happy, running the kicking camps and Kornblue kicking, everything that's going on. And, when you mentioned, your playing career and your time in Ann Arbor, 97, it's the gold standard. And to think that, if Michigan won 2 more games, just where this season would rank and go down, spoiler again, it would be right up there. People would be talking about this forever. So being on the brink of this with just a couple days to go, it's, you could just imagine people are busting at the seams. If I took you back to your playing days, you probably mentioned it over the years because Tom Brady is still playing, but Tom Brady was, if you go back to the late 90s there, at one point, he was your holder, right?
That's right. Yeah, we came in together.
You got to give me your best Tom Brady as your holder story. What do you say?
So I would say going into that Orange Bowl, our last game. So we were 50-year seniors together, and going into that Christmas day, the families weren't down yet. I'm from South Florida, about an hour, 50-minute hour drive away from where we were, our hotel was in Boca Raton is where I'm from. And my family, were still there. And so we had about 12, 13 guys from the team come down. We took buses and came up to my family's house and did Christmas dinner at our house. And my dad had a 17-foot Boston Whaler, just a small little boat that he loved to take out. And so we had, but it was small enough to where we had to do it in shifts. Well, we did one shift, and I took some guys out, we come back, and then I think we did a second or third, and it was the shift when Tom was on the boat. And there was 4 or 5 other guys on there. And I had, driven out on this boat, for at least half my life, and never had any problems. Well, on that shift, we ran into a sandbar, and it had never happened before to me. So I'm like, in an instant, my mind is racing, going crazy. I've got our starting quarterback here on this boat, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get off this sandbar. And I know how Coach Carr is with curfews, and this is probably 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. We've got 11 or 12 o'clock curfew. We're an hour away, and I'm just in my mind thinking everything I've ever dreamed and loved about Michigan, and I'm here in my last game, and I'm gonna be the reason our starting quarterback misses curfew and is benched for the game, and and all these things are racing. So I'm I'm just in like dress clothes, and I jump out of the boat into the water and push it off and kind of rock it a few times, and finally it came off the sandbar, and we were fine. But for, I don't know, probably a couple minutes there, my mind was in panic mode for that situation. So that was a story that he probably wasn't as nervous as I was, but just for me, had never been through that experience before, and getting the boat stuck, and so I was thinking that the tide was going to have to go in before we get it off there. And fortunately, it ended up, everything was good. We had a great dinner. Everybody got back on time, and he did his thing in the Orange Bowl, and we're here to talk about it today.
Yeah, and he went on to some great things, and he's still doing it, which is amazing. So you ran the greatest quarterback of all time up on a sandbar, and he almost missed the Orange Bowl. Well, it all comes full circle. You think about that Orange Bowl and Michigan being down 14 points and coming back, but you guys win that game on a missed extra point. So it's one of those things where when you're talking to any of your pupils there and talking about kicking, even the extra point there, you don't want to be known for the missed extra point in a bowl game, right?
Absolutely not. No, that's why every kick matters. Every point matters. Every play, you've got to be mentally tough, mentally strong, and obviously there's a lot of coaching that goes into that. A lot of that is just how guys are wired, and that's where the Tom Brady's of the world and certain guys that go to those highest levels, they have a certain inner quality that they're built for those moments, and they succeed in those moments. And even when they fail, they're willing to get back up and keep moving forward, and don't let those down moments, define them.
Yeah, well, let's talk some kicking here, and probably a good places to start is the current kicker, Jake Moody. He wins the Lou Groza Award for the best kicker, first Michigan kicker ever to win that award. What have you seen? Jake Moody, he missed 2 kicks, I think both from 47 yards, 2 kicks from 47 yards, but other than that, didn't miss an extra point, and was pretty good, especially in the middle of the season. Late in the season, Michigan really didn't need him except on those extra points. But what'd you think of Moody's season?
Oh, obviously an incredible season full of just almost near perfection, in terms of his extra points. Only a couple missed field goals and really came through in critical times. If you look at that Michigan State game, even though didn't come out ahead, it was probably one of his defining moments, or one of the for NFL scouts, what I think they're going to go and watch is on those, I think it was 3 timeouts, and 4 times he had to make the same kick in a row that they tried to ice him, and every kick was it looked like a carbon copy of itself. And so that's the consistency that Jake has, and has we saw that from him in high school. He started training with me when he was in middle school. I've got a picture of him, as a little 6th, 7th grader, and starting with us, and he's just continued to work and improve. and to see it come to where he is this season with winning the Lou Rose Award and All-American honors and all those kind of things, in addition to all the team stuff, combined with all that, it's just a magical season for the specialists. And Brad Robbins is having has had an incredible year as well. He's going to be an NFL guy at some point, and so there's a lot of talent that we have tried to groom and point towards Ann Arbor, and so they're certainly seeing the fruits of their labor right now.
Yeah, the kicking game has amazed me just where it's gone, since even when you were kicking. I was just watching the Monday night game last night, and right before the half, the kicker from the Saints, actually it was the Dolphins, they're lining it up. It's 59-yarder, and they weren't even making a big deal about it. It's like, well, they did take a sack, so this one was going to be a little bit further back, but they called the timeout right as he kicked it, and looked like it would have been good from 65. He ended up missing it, but it's amazing just how far. I wanted to ask you, because I see some high school videos. I see some of the ones that you put out. Some of these guys, these kids, I don't know, prospects, they're out there routinely, 50-yarders, 60-yarders, even in high school. That's not during the games, but can you talk about that evolution a little bit, and just the distance and what these guys are doing, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, it's you look at 20, 30 years ago, and the percentages of made kicks are just continuing to increase. And really what one of the main other things that's changing is just the strength of these guys. So you're not just getting a soccer guy who, has been pulled out to play football. You're getting football players. You look at like Quinn Nordine. I mean, he was an athlete, a true athlete, a lacrosse, a very highly recruited lacrosse player who also kicked. And so that's what coaches loved about him, that he was more than just a stereotypical kicker. He was a football player. He was an athlete. He was a leader. He was a guy, who didn't have any issue with trying to be in the weight room, out compete other guys. And so you're seeing more and more of that. And so that's where you see the longer kicks and the longer distances. And so that because of that, all these leagues are having to change the rules to make things a little more challenging, because kickers just keep getting better and better every year. And there's more and more guys that want to do it and see that it's, a position that not only you can earn scholarships and make good money in the NFL, but it's not looked at as much of a, kind of a position that only weak guys are a part of, or just, just guys who aren't football players. So it's becoming a little bit more, there's more incentive for guys to do it, and we're seeing more talented guys that are getting involved, and there's increased coaching opportunities. When I was in high school, all that existed was a camp or two in the summer, and that was it. And it was a few days, and then the rest of the year you're on your own. Now you have all around the country there's different coaches and camps and opportunities for guys. We offer training year round and camps year round. So if guys want the help, it's there. This whole break of Christmas break and through December, January, I've got guys from other parts of the country that are flying down here, or other parts of Florida that are trying to take advantage of private training, because they know that that little edge can help them get to another level and help them with their own game, and it's just getting more and more competitive.
Yeah, I mentioned Kornblue kicking. 90% of people that are watching or listening to the pod, they're probably familiar with your story of kicking at Michigan, going on and having a kicking camp and doing what you just said there, and having guys all year round and training, and ranking them as well. But when did you start that, and where's it at right now when you talk about Kornblue kicking? I mean, this is something every day, every week, every month.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It's year round, and because I'm in Naples, Florida, it allows me to be outside, working with guys, year round. So that's where last year, as Quinn Nordine, finished his career at Michigan, came down to Naples, and it was in that first week of January that we started our process of trying to get him ready for his pro day. And so it was, 3.5, 4 months of work on a regular basis out in this, 70-degree, 80-degree weather to be able to do that. And, other parts of the country, you just can't. So, we had a camp last week in Cowboy Stadium in Dallas. In February, we'll have a camp at the Colts indoor facility in Indianapolis. So but that's harder to do, more expensive, obviously, to rent those kind of facilities. But we'll do that in the winter months a few times. But for the most part, it's just really easy for me to be outside and working with guys any time of the year. Whereas up in the north or most of the country, it's hit or miss whether you can get out there and really get good work in. So yeah, we started doing rankings back in 2009, I believe. I went full time in 2007 with the camps. 2009, we started doing rankings. 2008, 2009, and yeah, it's been a lot of success, a lot of great stories of guys over the years. Guys like Eddie Pinero, who never kicked a field goal in high school and went on. We got him a full scholarship to Florida and went on to have a great career there. And he's kicking for the New York Jets right now. And just guys like that where it's helping them along the way, helping them with the instruction, and then also helping them find college programs to get their scholarship or walk-on opportunities. But recruiting never stops. It's a year-round process, and as you know, and so that's where I'm out there looking for guys and trying to help develop guys, throughout the year. So it never really stops. There's a need for it, and so just trying to meet that need as best as we can.
Yeah, tell me about two guys. When it comes down to rankings, I saw you had him ranked pretty high. Michigan has a freshman on the year. I mentioned Robbins and Jake Moody already. They haven't needed Tommy Duman, but I noticed that you had him ranked number 1 as a punter, number 2 as a place kicker. And I know Jim Harbaugh talked about, well, maybe he'll do both. There's not many guys that do both. So there's a lot of different questions. But, earlier you talked about, stereotyping kickers, and I was just looking at him before I knew I had you on, and I noticed that he was 6'5", and I just don't remember many 6'5" place kickers. So I'm leaning towards, without knowing anything or talking with anybody, that he would probably be a punter. But when it comes down, when you have a guy that might want to do both, or at one point he's got to pick one, is it team need? And what about Duman there? I know there's a lot of questions that I wrapped up in there, but
yeah,
you're familiar with him.
Sure, absolutely. No, he's a very talented kid. He is tall. He's got great size, and so that lends a little more naturally to being a punter. And it's just a more natural swing that he has. I think that's if you had to pick one for his strength, it would be punting. But he is a really good kicker too. So a lot of it has to do with need. You remember Kenny Allen did both. And so it's possible. Mike Gillette did both. It can be done. Hayden Epstein did both, but it's very difficult to because they are a different motion. The field goal motion and the punting motion, they're two different swings. So it's a lot of it is a matter of managing your reps and making sure that you're not overdoing it during the week in practice. So you have to have coaches that understand it and are understanding of the workload that you're trying to avoid, like a pitcher in baseball would, trying to make sure that you're still fresh by the middle or end of the season. So there's a lot that goes into that in terms of the managing it and making sure they're not over kicking and over punting, throughout the week. And so it can be done, but it's not ideal. So, since Harbaugh's been there, they've always tried to share duties. And even though there were some guys that could do both, they tried to have a kickoff guy, a field goal guy, and a punter. And, so it's just really a matter of just finding that whoever's performing the best at that time, that's who they're going to put in there.
Tell me, Michigan recruited, this is for next year, the 2023 class, a kid here locally out of Huron, Ann Arbor, Huron, Adam Samaha, I believe is how you say his name.
Right.
And you ranked him. Is it hard? Is that the hardest part of your job, ranking the kickers? It would seem like that could be the most difficult part, but is that the most difficult part?
Well, I put a lot of time into that. It's difficult only in the sense that I want to make sure that I don't evaluate a guy, in a way that's not accurate. So, we don't, if I see a guy, or we have a camp, like it's not a quick process to update our rankings. So we only do that probably 3 or 4 times a year, because I really spend a lot of time looking at the numbers, looking at the film on how they did, looking at their big pictures. For Jake Moody, when he was in high school, we increased his ranking based on how he did after we had known him so well. But he had such a good senior season that we were able to look at, and we don't usually do that, but we looked at the game film and saw, he's making these 55, 57-yard field goals consistently in games. And so it's pressure situations, which is ultimately the best test of what these guys can do. And he was doing it, he had the situations in games to opportunities to show what he could do, and he was doing it and capitalizing pretty much every time. So that increased his evaluation for us, because we don't see him every week or every month, being down here in Florida and him being in Michigan and other guys in different states. So, he earned our #1 ranking, but a lot of that came, towards the end with his senior season. So, every guy's different, every situation's different, but we try to get as much information as we can, just like any scout or college coach would, or NFL coach would, and do the best evaluation you can. But it's a need, because in terms of the specialists, kickers, punters, long snappers, most coaches don't really understand how to evaluate them, and they're looking for help. And when you look at the recruiting services that are out there, the 247 and Rivals and all these different publications, they always say, we're going to leave the kicking rankings to you. We're not going to even touch that, because you guys know that field, we don't. And so it's where we try to help as much as we can with the specialists who are often overlooked.
Back in the 70s, Michigan had a kicker named Super Toe. He was left foot dominant, named Mike Lantry. And I noticed Samaha, he is left dominant, left-footed kicker. I don't know however you say that. Yeah. What's Michigan getting in this prospect?
He's a really smooth, great tempo, really smooth field goal kicker. So he's not as much a punter. So you're not going to, I don't think, have a combo issue with him, but he's a really talented guy that the first time we saw him, was just really impressed with how he was doing. Now, rewind a little bit, and he was, I think, 4 years old, and his dad brought him out to one of our camps that was in Glick Fieldhouse, and so he had kind of he was around the kicking world at a very young age. And so, I've known of him a long time, but I hadn't seen him until I guess it was about a year and a half ago. And so he's a good one. So right now he's at the top of his class, but it's a really competitive class. So, but Michigan has got him committed right now. And so we'll see what happens there.
I got a quick hitter for you. What if it comes down, Michigan's down 1, and it's the last second, it's a 45-yarder for Jake Moody. Well, do you think, like, you're talking pressure, and you talk about Mel Tucker before the half, calling all those timeouts. Is it routine? So would you think Jake Moody, when it comes down for a pressure kick, how much is he feeling? How much is the special teams coach, the head coach? And then for you from afar, is it all like you guys stay consistent? Like, hey, it's snap, hold, kick. It's all that. That's what the coaches are thinking. That's what the players are thinking. Everything else is blocked out. Or because you'd be far away or maybe in the stands, would you be a little bit nervous then?
I certainly would be nervous. I'd probably be more nervous than Jake and some of those guys out there, the snapper, the holder. They have to do their job. It's a different, being a specialist, it's a different mindset than the other positions. A linebacker, a lineman, they're out there and they're using, much more aggression and force. And it's, as a specialist, you're more of like a golfer, where you just have to stay composed and do your job, without being too high, too low. And you have to keep that and that's where Jake is so good, because that's his personality. He is just so level, and just there's not much up and down with him, as opposed to somebody like a Quinn Nordine, who's a lot more up and down and emotional, more like a Justin Tucker or somebody like that would be, which is not, it's not good or bad. It's just different personalities. So, if it comes down to a kick for the win the game, I'll take that situation, and I like Michigan's chances in that situation for sure.
I'll tell you what, I'll take a 23-22 Georgia lead with 1 second, but Michigan kicking a 45-yarder with Jake Moody. I feel pretty good about him potting that. Michigan going to the championship game against Bama or Cincy. Brandon Kornblue, certainly appreciate your time. I have it on the screen here, but those that may just be listening to the podcast, at Kornblue Kicking, people that are interested in your camps or anything that you do, would you direct them there? I know the website is there on Twitter. Anything else that people should know?
Yeah, Twitter, Kornblue, at Kornblue Kicking, Instagram as well, and then our website, just kornbluekicking.com. But yeah, we're out there and doing camps and training throughout the year, throughout the country, and so trying to help as many guys as we can, and just excited, right now with a lot of guys in different parts of the country, different levels, NFL, college, high school, but certainly our Wolverine specialists are getting it done at a very high level, and making it easy and fun for me to watch.
Hey, great job. Thanks for staying so long with me. Enjoy the game coming up on Friday, and all the best to you.
Thanks. Same to you. Go Blue.
All right. See you, Brandon.
All right.
There he is, Brandon Kornblue, former Michigan kicker, Kornblue Kicking. How about that? These kickers, you hear about the athletes that, end up making a big time program like Michigan, end up going pro, whatever. Say, oh yeah, this guy, but he was 5 years old. You knew it when he was 6 years old. You just mentioned two of the kickers, 4 years old. These guys out there kicking when they're 4 years old. Good job, Brandon Kornblue. All right, we've got a few more things to cover here. I've got some audio for you from a college football analyst who likes Michigan coming up on Friday. We have a number of people lining up here with some feedback. I always like to read the feedback, and we'll go right to it here. CS, is Dax Hill out with COVID? I will say maybe to that. I know that there's a lot, not reports, rumors, but him not being in Miami, I have seen that out there. I know that George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia, and JT Daniels, the quarterback from Georgia, they just went down there yesterday, and that they had some positive tests. So however this is going to work out, we knew that there's a possibility of positive tests and people missing the game. It's not a sure thing. It hadn't been ruled out yet. Who knows? Maybe you could have a situation wherever that 10-day is. Maybe they change the protocol like the NFL and NBA are doing on the fly. It's 5. Maybe you have a false positive. Maybe you can get, 2 tests before that where he can be out there and play. All those things are possibilities, and probably 3 or 4 more things that I'm not even thinking of. But that's out there. It's being talked about. Complete confirmation. Maybe it's happened over the last couple minutes here, but I haven't seen that. But there is a possibility there. As an Alabama fan, go Blue. Yeah, well, I don't know if I've ever roll Tide. We'll see you in the championship game. That would be pretty sweet, no boy. He has more to say here. Michigan's offensive line has to dominate the line of scrimmage against Georgia to open up the running game. That'll include double teaming Jordan Davis to make him work. Michigan has a good player in Will Johnson. Talking about the corner that came in this year. Yeah, you know what? Michigan's offensive line, they and Georgia's defensive line, one of the great matchups of this game. I know the Dogs, fantastic, a brick wall all season long against the run. We know that's been Michigan's identity. So, it's not like Michigan's. I don't think that they're going to come right out and say, no, we're not going to try to run the ball. They're going to see what they can do there. And, sometimes you just have to keep doing it till you break one, or just keep doing it till it pays off. Maybe you can get some benefits even in the second half. But, I don't think Michigan's going to go completely away from the run. Do I think that they could still use their backs and throw screens to him and get Godzilla, Jordan Davis, running a little bit, 6'6", 360, get him, hot, steaming a little bit where, you can, get him running rather than just stay right there in the tackle box. I think that's something that will definitely be considered. CS here. A Georgia podcaster said Jordan Davis can run 20 miles an hour. Yeah, well, you know what? Michigan podcaster, I can run 25 miles an hour. How about that one? I don't know. Maybe he can. Jordan Davis, I had him on I had him at number 1 on my Heisman list heading into championship Saturday. Now, Georgia lost the game. And, Bryce Young, who I had 3 on that list heading into the championship game, vaulted up to number 1 and obviously won the Heisman, but that's how I would have voted it. But I would have had Davis as one of my top 3 there. So it's not like, I think he's overrated or he sounds like he's a great player off the field as he is on, and big 99. You get the nickname Godzilla, you better be pretty good. Let's see more here coming through. Cade McNamara and those wide receivers have to make big plays against the Georgia secondary. But you know what? You listen to enough people talk about Georgia's defense. They all say really nice things about the defensive line and the front 7, talking about the speed, sideline to sideline. But at some point, when you're listening to people that have watched Georgia, they say, hey, they're susceptible to the pass, that you can get their corners, that you can throw the ball over their head. And you know what? I feel pretty good. Michigan's wide receivers and what they have been able to do this year. And it's not just 1 in Cornelius Johnson. It's not just 2 in Roman Wilson. They have had a number of guys. Andrew Anthony came on, big playability. There's 3. And, the way that the tight ends, I think it was yesterday, was it Jim Harbaugh or Josh? I think it was Josh Gaddis saying they're underrated or the unsung heroes. I think the way that he put it, and the way Schoonmaker came on and the hands that he displayed. That guy, is a monster. And then Eric All, of course, had the 47-yard touchdown against Penn State. Michigan's passing game, Cade McNamara, give the guy a little bit of time and let him deal, especially between the hashes. His ability to throw that ball, he can do it. And, McCarthy, maybe, moving around, moving the pocket a little bit, airing it out, seeing if he can find Roman Wilson. A little X factor there for Michigan. But, yeah, I think that they're definitely going to have to throw the ball a little bit. JJ gets 20 plays against the Dogs. I don't know. That'd be a lot. 20 plays would be a lot. But, he's going to be in there. That when you start thinking about a lot of what we do is we start talking about different things that teams will do instead of, hey, run the ball, get first downs, just do the normal. People start talking about Donovan Edwards throwing a 75-yard pass, or I was talking to myself, AJ Henning, lining him up in the backfield like the 49ers do with Deebo Samuel, or we saw with Cordell Patterson, what the Falcons were doing against the Lions. And, they've been doing that with Patterson, different teams in different years. Use Henning like that, but it's fun to talk about like that. Maybe they will. That's a lot of reps, more reps for McCarthy than I would guess. And if I had to put it over and under reps on McCarthy, I'd put him at, 10. So you would go way over on that. I've gone this far. How long have I gone here? 34 minutes. And I haven't talked about the biggest news. And you may say, hey, that's Dax Hill. And, you're not going to be wrong about that. But Michigan yesterday picks up an All-American center in the transfer portal. He was one of 3 that was named as a Remington Trophy finalist for the best center in all of college football. Olusegun Oluwatimi. Olusegun Oluwatimi is a stud All-American, and he's going to take over snapping the ball from Andrew Vastardis. I mean, this is fantastic news. It's like, you just love, I tell you, most people that are watching this, I know somebody watching it said they were an Alabama fan, but most people watching this right now, they're Michigan fans. And it is a great time to be a Michigan football fan. It's just like great news after, good news after great news after surprising news. But, this is great news. Michigan getting a loose gun, Olawatimi, and yeah, it takes a little bit, but, after a while it starts rolling off your tongue. Olawatimi. Some of the metric numbers on it. First of all, he started 32 straight games. So he's durable. How about the size on this center? 6'3", 310. And he is a mauler in the run game. Pro Football Focus, second highest run blocking grade for any center in college football. Not too shabby. Allowed 3 sacks and 5 quarterback hits in 21 and all of last year. That's right up there on the top. And you look at the other 2 centers that were the Remington Trophy finalists, Alec Lindstrom. Yeah, it sounds like a hockey player. Boston College. So does Linderbaum, who Michigan saw in the Big Ten championship game at Iowa. We knew he was a good one. He's a great one. But Aluskan Olawatimi right in with those 3, and Michigan gets him snapping the ball next year. They think about the run game and just what the transfer portal, and Michigan's going to have guys hitting the transfer portal. There's no doubt. But bringing in an All-American, everybody likes recruiting, and you look at the prospects and everything else. And yeah, I'm focused on the Orange Bowl too. Why wouldn't you be? First time ever college football playoff Friday. Let's go! But man, Aluskan Olawatimi. Let's have a party. It feels like, it's just time to party with that news right there. Great news for Jim Harbaugh. Great news all the way around here. Sharon Moore's got to be, giddy about Michigan's offensive line coach. If you're Mike Hart and you're talking to those backs, you're talking to Blake Corum saying, hey, Olawatimi, whoever the quarterback's going to be next year, all good stuff there for Michigan when you think about next year and their offensive line. And you knew that they were going to lose for Stardust, and they're going to lose Stuber as well. But already they've got an offensive line that's coming back that is stout. And you talk to enough people that know football, they'll say, yeah, you win the games up front. Not going to get much argument from people that know football on that. And the center is the key to it all. And they got an All-American. They got one of the best 2 years in a row. He's been on that Remington list, and this year, one of the 3 finalists. I mean, this is just straight up great news for Jim Harbaugh and company there. So fantastic. The recruiting spotlight, every day I do 2 things. One is the memorabilia minute, and the other one is the Michigan recruiting spotlight. The Michigan recruiting spotlight was Brandon Kornblue talking about one of Michigan's 4 commits for next year, Adam Samaha, who he knew kicking down at Glick Fieldhouse from nearby Ann Arbor, Huron when he was 4 years old. Pretty good. We'll play that sound in the future on the Michigan recruiting spotlight. When I go to the memorabilia minute, before I do that, I've got a place kicking picture of memorabilia. So bringing on Brandon Kornblue, I thought it was very appropriate. Of course it is. But let's go back and hit a couple more here on the feedback. It's Doughboy. Michigan needs to change that old school offense to a spread offense with the quarterback that they just got. I think you're talking about Alex Orji. I don't think they need to change what they're doing here. Remember, Michigan's got Cade McNamara, and they've got J.J. McCarthy, and they recruited. They got Jaden Denegal, and they got Alex Orji, and they got Dan Villari on here. I mean, it's who knows how many of these guys they're going to be able to keep, but Michigan's not changing anything to any kind of spread offense. Now, could they do something? Villari was going to be used in some short yardage situations. Harbaugh had mentioned this, that, he could be, that guy in the short yardage situations that and that never did materialize, but, could it materialize with next year with Villari in short yardage situations? Maybe. And Orgy, if he stays at quarterback, could he be that guy in there? But, that's the only spot if things are going to stay the same right now that you can see guys even getting in would be in some unique situations just to try to change things up. But yeah, I don't think that kind of stuff is happening. Let's go here. More feedback. Antoine getting in today. I used to think Ohio fans were some of the worst. I don't think that anymore. In fact, some Ohio fans have been pretty nice, but them damn Georgia fans are straight delusional. I think it always depends, like, where you're getting your opposing fan base from. Like, if you're hanging out on Twitter or you're hanging out online or posting boards or something like there, you're going to get, what you're asking for are straight up barbs and trash talk. And, that's what you're asking for that if you show up. You get somebody person to person and talk with them, they can say, oh, yeah, it's, sure. We get a little trash talking, but what about this? What about that? Yeah. And you can find some of that online, but when you're getting online or you're getting on talk radio, it mostly plays to the lowest common denominator. That's just what happens. And you know what? There's a part about this. This is what I always, I've got a friend who's, he's a big time hockey fan. And you ask him his 4 favorite sports, it's hockey, then football down here. But, his family's from Canada. And I stayed at his cottage one time, and, it's all they want to do is talk about hockey, So, but I appreciated, and I like hockey, but at the end when they're coming over, they're like, that guy's not, they were talking about me. And he's like, he's not really into hockey. I'm like, well, not like you guys. I say all that, SEC fans, that's what they're into. Like, I love football. College football, Michigan is everything. You know what? I really like Michigan basketball, Michigan hockey, and I like baseball too. Michigan baseball. I like all 4 of those sports. Everybody's got the other sport. SEC fans, Alabama fans like Alabama football, Alabama spring football. Here's Alabama's top 4 sports: Alabama football, Alabama recruiting, Alabama spring game, Alabama transfer portal, Nick Saban commercials. Those are their top 5, favorite things. And it's not too far away from the Dogs. And you know what? If Michigan had number 1 recruiting classes coming out of their ears the last 5 years, like Kirby Smart does, there'd be a lot more Michigan recruiting fans. There's a lot right now. Off on a tangent. D Brown, did you talk about Dax? Yeah. Did I talk about getting vaxxed yet? Oh, no, Dax. Yeah, we did. We talked about Dax. Yeah. It would be a big loss, especially considering yesterday, that was going to be the tight end eliminator, Dax Hill. So nothing, at least that I've seen here. Maybe I should look. Maybe it's coming out as official or something, but there's still a chance. But, a chance that he could be out, still a chance that he could play. I'll have to see on that. That's what we talked about. Craziness with fan bases. Alabama, Doughboy, Michigan has closed the recruiting gap between themselves and Ohio State. You know what? Nothing helps you more than winning on the field. But, recruits are looking for playing time for sure. They're looking to get to the NFL. A lot of them are looking for education. And a lot of them want to play for a championship, so if you can offer all of those things, and, Michigan has long been able to offer a lot of different things, but offering playing in the Big Ten championship game or offering playing in the college football playoff, other teams are like, why are you going to go to Michigan there? They got everything else, but not if you want to play in the college football playoff. And now they have that. So plus with the name, image, and likeness, that evens some things up. Transfer portal, even though Michigan hit it, and I talked about Aluska and Olalatimi being able to get, but that Michigan, that they because of the transfer credits, seems like they are playing a little bit shorthanded when it comes to the transfer portal. But everything else now, NLI, winning on the field, like helmet, uniform, academics, like, all right, Michigan's back. That's how you even things up with Ohio State. Beat them on the field, and then, be able to, offer things like that you can with name, image, and likeness now too. That is big. One more here. Raymond says, this has been a great season so far, especially after last year. Well, you know what, Raymond? I'm going to tell you, we had Brandon Kornblue on, if you're just joining us earlier, and he said, he'd never wavered at all about Jim Harbaugh, and he stayed with him through the thick and thin. I think that's a real minority opinion when it came down to Michigan fans after last year. I could tell you that through the fourth season, the fifth season, after that 62-0 game, I still said, when I had people that I worked with, Michigan fans, saying, you're crazy, it's the Harbaugh, they need to move on. I said, look, I always put myself in the position of Ward Manuel and said, hey, what would I do if I was Ward Manuel? And every year I said, I still think Jim Harbaugh is the best guy for the job. No, he's not beating Ohio State, but does he know what it takes to beat Ohio State? I mean, who knew more than Jim Harbaugh what it was going to take to beat Ohio State? No, he hadn't had any success. 2016, they were that close, however you want to say it. Some people say, and they could have won that one. But you know what? Last year, I watched how the team played. I watched the team get smacked upside the head by Michigan State. I saw them not get prepared at the beginning of the game against Indiana. I saw Wisconsin came in and played a physical game, and it looked like Michigan players quit out there. And I saw a Penn State team, toothless Penn State team, come in and outwill Michigan. I thought after that I broke and said I thought it was time. I don't think that. Of course, I'm saying, like, I don't think you're a bad person or reason. I thought it was very reasonable after last year to say, hey, you know what? Maybe Michigan should move on. I thought it was very reasonable, but, and I do think the majority of people agreed with me on that. But yeah, I look at it now as, one of those great stories in all of sports. What if I told you a former player came back and almost everybody had abandoned him and thought it was time to move on? And the coach was out there and had success in the NFL, but nobody was giving him the time of day. And he had to come back almost crawling on his hands and knees at a reduced salary for the Wolverines, but then led them to the Big Ten championship and the college football playoff. Now, the story only gets better from here. A win on Friday, a win, a championship. It's having it in grasp and all that. It's close, but man, it still feels a long ways away. But getting a win on Friday, man, it's going to feel a little bit like if Michigan is able to get this win on Friday, like this, sports euphoria. Like I don't know how people are going to, like, it's already like that. The Ohio State game, almost the entire game was like that. The Big Ten championship game was like that. I just don't know how much more euphoria Michigan fans, they're here for it. Everybody's here for it. But, it's been a long time. So, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but just having this, the winning, and, you saw what happened in recruiting because of how Michigan's performing on the field. And now you see Ola Atimi coming aboard, an All-American center for next year. I mean, it's just over and over. It reminds me of last year for the Michigan basketball team heading into the season. I remember we had COVID and everything else. They're just happy to get out there and have a season and having the guys compete. But really, Michigan was picked to finish a little bit, pretty much in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten. And I thought, heck, if they could finish in the top 4 or 5, that'll be a good season. Well, you know what? They started out 11-0, and they got to a point near at the end when they're playing for the Big Ten championship. It's like every single thing that you looked at, it was like, this thing's going so great, like everything. You just couldn't talk about Juwan Howard enough. Each one of the assistants, all of the players, how everything was going. And how difficult it is to get all of those levers and everybody rowing and all of it. And Michigan basketball had it last year, and it was, I know they didn't go to the Final Four. They were that close, and they didn't win the championship. But, man, that was one of considering what was going on in the world and how it was a surprise. It was just pure joy, being able to enjoy athletics and Michigan hoops. I'm not going over that. That was it, man. It was awesome. That team will go down I'll mention it always as a surprise, as entertaining of a season that didn't end up ultimately with a championship. I get that part, but it was special. And then this year's football team, also a surprise. Like, I know a lot of people that cover Michigan, and I know some are, you'd say, man, that guy's an uber homer. That person would never say anything. You kid me? They'd never say anything bad about Harbaugh. I didn't see anybody picking Michigan to win more than 8-9 games. Nobody. And then, so this was as or more surprising than last year. And here's Michigan with two of the reigning coaches of America. Jim Harbaugh, Coach of the Year. Juwan Howard, Coach of the Year. I mean, how about that? Fantastic times, at least in the sports realm, which we are talking about here. And yeah, we're still in all of this and just hoping that we can get both teams out there with all of their players to be able to compete in that game. I mean, that's the thing. Like, your guess, as we sit here, we don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with the testing and how things are going to go and who's going to be available or not. So just sit back and hope for the best. That's where I'm at right now with it. What else are you going to do? I don't know. I don't have that answer. What else you're going to do? All right. So thanks to Brandon Kornblue who came on. Oh, I had two pieces of audio that I wanted to play for you. That reminded me here. So let's get to that. And this audio is from a ESPN analyst, Roddy Jones. He played football at Georgia Tech. And I heard Roddy, reminds me of Roddy White, who played for the Atlanta Falcons, or Roddy Piper, but Roddy Jones played football at Georgia Tech. He's a college football analyst now. I was listening to him on Sirius XM, and he was talking about the Orange Bowl, and he was asked if in the Orange Bowl, does he like Georgia, or does he think that the Wolverines just keep it rolling?
I think I've convinced myself that the Michigan train keeps rolling, and it really comes down to their front. Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, and the rest of that front being able to get pressure on Stetson Bennett with four. Like, I don't think they're going to have to send any more bodies, and then they're going to play cover two man behind it. And so my question then is, you have guys that can make plays on let's say jump balls, contested catches. And I think George Pickens is that guy. Brock Bowers, good player, really good player. So maybe he's that guy. But to be able to do it consistently, you're going to have to protect Stetson Bennett. And I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that consistently.
I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do that consistently either. And I think that's the path for a Michigan victory. Stetson Bennett, stop the run, make Bennett, and I know he likes to run too, put some hats on him, force some turnovers, get some extra possessions. Roddy Jones, the college football analyst from ESPN. So one more piece of audio from Jones. He was asked who he likes in the Orange Bowl.
And then on the other side, I'm not 100% sure that Michigan's going to be able to move the ball all that often, but you only got to be good on 2 or 3 drives. And I think the way Michigan's operated this year, they are comfortable in that kind of game where, hey, look, we're going to get stopped some. It's going to be, it's going to be a slog for most of it. We're going to rely on our defense, but we can be good enough on 2 or 3 drives to be able to go and win this game. Because I think, I think 21, 24 points is probably going to win it for either team. So I like Michigan in this one because of their ability to run the football and to create pressure. And Georgia has not been able to create as good as the defense has been. Getting pressure with just the defensive line has not been a strength of theirs. They don't have the bona fide pass rusher off the edge. They do a lot of twists and stunts and blitzes with Nakobe Dean, with Channing Tindall to be able to create that pressure. So I think I've convinced myself that Michigan wins the game. Maybe some of that's my Georgia Tech bias, but I've been high on Georgia all year. I just think they were exposed a little bit against Alabama.
I don't know. I don't know if they were exposed a little bit. They lost the game. They were exposed a little bit in terms of the points they were giving up. Exposed a little bit in terms of people talking about it being a generational defense, and exposed a little bit of a team that's relying too much on their defense to get them to a championship. Well, Kirby Smart, he can't beat Alabama, and he can't beat the championship teams either. They lost to LSU. 2 years ago, Joe Burrow and company in that SEC championship game. They always lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game. I know if you're a college football fan, Georgia. Besides Georgia, it's like, let's see somebody else give it a shot against Alabama because Georgia can't do it. I want to see that rematch. So we had Brandon Kornblue on earlier, and along with the Michigan's recruiting spotlight that we do every day, we also do have a memorabilia minute. And for the memorabilia minute here, we don't need Mr. Jones anymore up there. There it is. So this was my grandfather-in-law, passed away a few years ago. He had this picture up in on his wall, on his steps. And if you look, it goes back to 94. I mean, it looks like it could be back from the 50s, but this is Remy Hamilton. And there's old Remy right there. And he's kicking the ball against Notre Dame, September 10th, 1994. They put the kick out there as they made this, but that's the memorabilia minute from today. We wouldn't sell this for $1 million. Well, maybe we would for $1 million, but it sits up here in the studio. I get the glare and everything on it, but I was looking for the ball. I just can't find it on there when you look. But there's the memorabilia minute. The kick, 94, 26, 24. It ended up going down. Remy Hamilton, Michigan kicker, always known for that particular kick. I remember years after, was it years after or right after? It was bartending at scorekeepers or whatever it was. I was ready to come in and say, and probably a lot of people brought that particular picture up and say, hey, Remy, let me have a signature. All right, there it is. Coming up tomorrow, I've got an offer or two out there. I'm hoping for a commitment. I would say I have a soft commitment right now because I did get a response, but I'm not ready to reveal who the guest is. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow at 1:00. We're here every day at 1:00 talking about Michigan weekdays, and then on after Michigan football, basketball, and Michigan football and basketball games. And so what you got Thursday, Michigan basketball down at Central Florida. I'll be on after that game. And then Friday, after the Orange Bowl. Woo! I don't know, man. Like, we could be ringing in the new year right here on the Mason Blue Review. Could happen. That happens. I'll have to get the party favors out, and depending on how that game goes, there could be a celebration into 2022. Who needs who's bringing it in that I saw this year? Miley Cyrus and of the comedian Pete Davidson. That's it. Who needs Dick Clark or Pete Davidson or Miley Cyrus or Post Malone? We'll have the Michigan championship, Michigan semifinal post-game show, championship preview, ringing in the new year, hopefully, coming up this Friday. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Everybody have themselves a great afternoon.